Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Hi there, welcome to this week's podcast. My co-host Kirsty is off the air this week due to emergency surgery. Get well soon, Kirsty, we're thinking of you, miss you. But I'm not flying solo. Keeping the seat warm is our favourite film reviewer, podcaster, and also the sound engineer for The World Awaits, Alistair Lees. Hey, Alistair, lovely to have your voice back on the pod.
Hey, Belle, so great to be here. You've been busy the last few weeks, haven't you?
Oh, I'm a busy girl. I'm just home after 3 weeks in the Middle East, in Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and I literally flew out the day that all of that, that disaster started unfolding in Israel and Gaza. We'll talk more about that in our interview next week about, how the conflict in Israel will impact tourism in the Middle East. But for now, it was great to see family. I also managed to get into the Grand Egyptian Museum, which has yet to fully open. It's been crazy. But what have you been up to, Alistair?
Look, nowhere near as exciting as you. I've been in Melbourne, but
Melbourne's exciting.
It is. But I've been experiencing the world through the silver screen.
Yeah.
The last time we chatted on this was back in episode 8, and we talked about some of the great films at the Melbourne International Film Festival. Since then, we now have the Melbourne Queer Film Festival coming up, which is showing a number of the same films that were at MIF. But there's also a few new ones in there as well, which I'm very excited to check out from all over. Probably the biggest one that I want to talk about is Killers of the Flower Moon. It is shot in Oklahoma. It is Martin Scorsese's new film.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio. Lily Gladstone should be the name on your lips. She is absolutely phenomenal. It does go for 3 hours and 40 minutes, so it is quite a long film to sit through.
But is it beautiful? I'm coming at it with my travel hat on. Oklahoma.
Absolutely gorgeous. I would never, ever, ever think to visit there until I watched this movie.
Oh, ever. Okay. Right. All right. Well, that's, for me, that's half of watching a movie is the scenery for it. I'm so into, travel movies. Because we've also got The Haunting in Venice is out now, although I think, it's got Venice in the name.
Now, look,
doesn't have Venice in the film.
Venice is in the name, and there's definitely some stock footage of Venice in the film. It was majority studio. So, look, that's how some things go with, small budgets when a lot of the budget goes to the cast. But we've all had to...
it's a London studio anyway as well. It's not even a studio in Venice, isn't it?
No, it's definitely not a studio in Venice. That may have improved the movie. Look, we all suffered through My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, which was absolutely horrible. But it did make you want to jump on a plane and go straight to wherever they filmed because it was just heaven to look at.
And maybe find romance on a Greek isle. Okay, I'm totally signing up for that. I will suffer. I'm going to suffer through.
Watch it on mute.
Okay. Any others I should have on my hit list for this?
You should definitely add Passages to your list. It was filmed and is set around Paris. It does star Ben Whishaw, who was the voice of Paddington. He was also in Women Talking. And it is a film about a gay couple who one of them decides that he's fallen in love with a woman, and the three of them get entangled in quite a comedic set of events.
In Paris. Okay, I'm going for the Paris bit.
The big thing in here is the architecture. The locations for where they live and work are set in these just gorgeous, huge converted warehouse spaces.
Sell me the dream.
Quite old,
I'm buying it.
And it's just beautiful. The cafes they go to, the clubs they go to, it just looks absolutely spectacular. It feels old world but new, and it's a really big selling point of this film.
So Passages. Okay, great. All right, it's on the list. Because I only watch it for the scenery. Having a storyline is a bonus on that one.
In our first interview this week, we go to the beautiful Kakadu National Park in the Northern Territory. Belle chats with Ben Tyler, a proud Binage man based between Kakadu and Darwin. Ben is an author, entrepreneur, and also the creator of the Dead Full Moon Feasts, which are held every month beneath the stars at the Indigenous-owned Cooinda Lodge in Kakadu National Park.
Ben, welcome to The World Awaits. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Belinda, for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, look, the honour is all ours. When we met in Kakadu a couple of months ago, it was really innovative. I mean, you're a chef, you're an author, you're also the founder of Kakadu Kitchen. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what's your connection to Kakadu? Because I understand that you actually grew up there.
Thank you, Belinda. Yeah, so sometimes I'm asked the question, about family and if I have any siblings. I actually have, over 25 siblings.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I have, my birth mother and my birth father. So I was put up for adoption when I was born. And my birth mother's best friend, Jessie, said she'll take me because she went to the hospital with, at the time. And so, yeah, she took me. And the first 3 months of my life, I grew up on Larrakia country in Darwin. And then, yeah, Mum Jessie said, okay, I'm taking him out to Kakadu now. So she took me out to Kakadu, and that's where I grew up. I grew up as a Benin man on Mum's Murrumbura country. And, yeah, Mum taught me about, culture in Kakadu, Benin culture. We were always hunting, gathering with family, swimming. We were very lucky to swim in Kakadu during the 1980s when the croc populations were super low, nearly extinct. And yeah, you could swim 5 kilometers in the creek without bumping into a crocodile.
Oh, really? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because I've read that they estimate there's about 10,000 crocodiles in Kakadu now. And most places you can't swim.
You'd be wary to dip your toe in the water now.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh yes, I've got to say the pool at Cooinda Lodge was looking pretty good at that point.
That's the safe bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So Kakadu is really special to you, isn't it? I mean, what an incredible place to have a childhood.
Incredible childhood.
Well, it's one of the jewels in Australia's tourism. Certainly for the Northern Territory, you have Uluru and you have Kakadu. These are two incredible places. And growing up there, it would have been astonishing. So now you've brought that experience and your experience in learning about country and about particularly about the food because you are a chef. And you've brought that to an experience that we can all experience when we go to Kakadu. And these are the Dead Full Moon dinners, the Full Moon Feasts. So tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, firstly, disclaimer, I'm not a trained chef, but I do know bush tucker, so I grew up with bush foods in Kakadu, and I often collaborate with chefs such as executive chef Phil Foote, who we do the Dead dinners with. And Dead in our language means moon, and yeah, it's a beautiful symbol of cycles and seasons in Kakadu, and we do have a moon dreaming on my mother's country, and so there is a cultural significance to the moon as well, and we share stories, and the dinner is about bringing culture into the kitchen and sharing culture on the plate with our guests through the beautiful foods that we forage for seasonally.
And how often are the dinners held now?
The dinners are held, they will be returning to being every month. So if you're looking to book a dinner in 2024, you can check out the Kakadu Tourism website, and we will have all the dates in there for all of the months of 2024, going back to monthly dinners.
Fantastic. So when I was there a couple of months ago, they were being held 6 times a year because there's 6 different seasons in Kakadu, isn't there?
That's right, Belinda. Yeah, we have 6 seasons traditionally recognised by Benin Mungoi people in Kakadu, and those seasons because when we have the dinners every month, when we first started off, some of the dinners, the seasons carry over sometimes between 1 or 2 or 3 months. So we thought, what if we tried to have a dinner, pick out the best month that represents that season, and that worked really well. And now that we've got a lot of demand for the dinners, so we thought, well, let's go back to monthly dinners, so people have an opportunity to attend the dinner and get to experience the beautiful dead full moon feast.
And I guess the whole point of them is this is seasonality at its absolute core. So no dinner is ever going to be the same. I mean, the dinner that I went to was in the cooler months, and the food was astonishing. Just some of the things that we had. We had a slow roast, buffalo that was cooked in a ground oven. I had pickled lily stems, and all of these things you foraged by hand from Kakadu. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, so all of the Kakadu native botanicals we forage for in Kakadu with family on country, such as the water lilies, the paperbark leaves that we smoke the meats with. So the crocodile, the barra, and the buffalo that comes from certified farms, in the Northern Territory. And then we use our traditional methods of cooking, such as the ground oven, and then we bring the essence of that method into the commercial kitchen and try to recreate the flavors of cooking in a ground oven. So we actually use like a commercial oven, but we use, we infuse the paperbark leaves to recreate that beautiful smoky flavor that we get cooking it in the traditional way.
That must actually have been quite a challenge for you and Philip Foote to adapt those different techniques. Do you think? I mean, you must have spent a lot of time in the kitchen working on this.
Chef Philip Foote is incredible. He's got a huge amount of experience working in kitchens in Dubai and around the world, and so his expertise that he brings to Kakadu, it's such a great collaboration because we normally have a meeting, we'll sit down with a piece of paper and we'll talk about the next season or the next full moon dinner, what's in season, and then we'll design the dishes around what we can forage in that season. And then if Chef has a chance, and we try and get Chef out in country so he can experience the food the way that Benin Mungoy experience it out in Kakadu kitchen, which is the 20,000 square kilometre, the 65,000 year kitchen that is Kakadu. And that's the essence of it, of what we bring to the experience. And and with his knowledge with chefing, he does it so seamlessly, and it makes it a really beautiful collaboration. We're able to be very creative and capture the essence of Kakadu.
And the thing is too that you're sitting under the stars as well. It's well, I was anyway, and that just adds to this almost ethereal setting, out under the stars, eating food that is so incredibly seasonal and so local. It really is an incredible experience. But the thing is too about it, what we were eating is not magpie geese or crocodile or buffalo, but it's bamaru or kinka or anabaru, which are and apologies for my pronunciation here, but
you're doing okay.
Thank you.
I can understand what you're saying.
Okay, that's great. Well, this is the thing that really caught me about it as well, is that we're not using the European words here, where it's not just the food is from here, but also the names are from here as well, because you bring a lot of language into your daily interactions with tourists and with visitors, and so you're actually starting to learn a little bit of language there. So tell us about the languages in Kakadu and what you're using on the feasts.
Yeah, so again, we wanted to bring culture into the kitchen,
Yeah.
and what that means to our, for chef and for the kitchen staff, and also for our beautiful guests that come and experience the food from country. So, Kakadu Kitchen, our mission is to share Benin culture with as many people as possible so it lives forever. And language is a big part of that. So we try and put language front and center of everything that we do. And for us, it's about designing the menu in language. And Kakadu has about 9 distinct languages. Most of those are now sleeping, and we now mostly speak 2 languages in the park, so Gunjapmi and Gunwingu, and they're both part of a bigger language group called Binin Gunwok, which are languages of West Arnhem Land, which start from Maningrida, come across all the way to parts of Kakadu, and then in the southern end of the park we have Jawan language. So the menu is designed in the Mayali Gunjapmi language, and we try to tell little stories. So each dish tells a little story about the season, and we try and tell the story in language, and then translate that into English as well.
Because, I mean, the crazy thing is, we always say it's respectful to learn how to at least greet somebody in their language when we go to France or China, but we don't do it in Australia. So how do you think we can change that situation? And, do we need to change it? I mean, from a point of just being respectful, absolutely. But how do we go about it?
Well, you'll hear me say gamak a lot.
Gamak, good.
Yeah,
okay.
And I think that's a really great, easy way to start. And I use the word gamak, to say hello, to say thank you, to say yes, to say okay. And, even if we do greet each other, I could say to you, gamak, with a question mark, and you could reply to me,
Gamak.
Wo gamak, or just gamak.
Oh.
And that means, yeah.
Or could I say, is it good gamak? Is that, are you well?
Nguta? Nguta gamak? No, that's. You could say that as well. Nguta means you, so you could say that as well. You could say nguta gamak, or you could shorten it and just say gamak as a question, and then someone could reply to you. They could either say wo, which means yes, or they could just say gamak. Yeah.
But there are some phrase books as well online, and also you actually wrote a book about using a lot of language, which is walking in Kakadu country. Which is, when I looked at it, I thought it was a children's book, and then when I read it, I realised that it's actually a book that that really is an introduction to Kakadu, to country, so that you are learning the words on. When you're on country. And when I stayed in the new yellow water villas that are at Cooinda Lodge, what I loved was that each one of the villas was named after an animal that lives in Kakadu. So I stayed in Kabo, which is the green ant. Again, you can correct my pronunciation.
Very good, yeah. Gabor.
Gabor. Yeah, which is funny because it's spelled with a K, but you've got a G sound on there. And it's actually on the street signs as well when you come in and out of Cooinda Lodge. And I just thought it was a really exciting experience for that.
It is. It's a beautiful way to connect to, culture and the natural landscape of Kakadu.
And what are some other ways that you can do that when you're on Kakadu?
Well, you were talking about language, and there's some great language resources for the Kakadu region and Arnhem Land region called Binin Gunwok. So it's actually Binin Gunwok Language Centre, and they have a board of Binin Mungoi people, Binin people who look after all manner of language projects in the park and West Arnhem Land. And there's actually a dictionary called nyamed.com, so NJAMED.com, and it's a good fun if you wanted to just have a look. You could type in an English word and it'll give you the Binin word for it. Sometimes that's pretty nice to do. But when you're in the park, a lot of the signs have interpretive signs. You could go a cultural tour with some of the local been in Mungoy tour operators that operate in the park.
And there's the cultural centre there as well, isn't there?
And the cultural centre is amazing.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic, and also that's where, you know, I think I shopped at pretty hard. Beautiful earrings, artworks, and also products from Kakadu Kitchen and Kakadu Organics, which makes the toiletries with things like desert lime that are sourced on country as well. So Ben, I'm going to ask you the last question that we ask all of our guests as well, and I hope you're ready for this one, and that is, what has been your most bizarre travel experience? And it may even come from Kakadu as well.
My most bizarre travel experience?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I could tell you a story actually about when I was a child.
Go on.
Well, actually, there was sort of, we were swimming, we normally go camping at one of our favourite camping spots, for family. It's up in Defada Gorge area called Juad, and it was in the dry season around July, and there's beautiful creeks. This was just, before the crocodiles were coming back in, so we used to swim all up this gorge all the way and walk all the way up to the waterfall and go swimming at the waterfall. And this one time, this particular time, us kids, we decided to climb up the side of the waterfall, and we sort of climbed up this steep rock all the way up to this little tiny cave up the top, and as we were climbing up, we were throwing sticks and stones into the waterfall, and we sat up there for a little bit, and then we came back down, had a swim in the waterfall, and then made our way back to camp, by late afternoon, a little bit evening time, and the family were cooking up some food. And Diane Lucas, who I wrote the book with actually, who was my school teacher, and she was on this family camping trip with us, with my grandmother and my mother and a lot of us children. And all of us kids were camping out on this rock, just sort of near the creek. And I went over to where the family were cooking, and Diane, out of the blue, Diane said to me, "Oh, did you know you're not meant to throw rocks or sticks into the waterfall?" And I said, "Oh no, I didn't know that." And I said, "Why, what happens if you do?" I didn't tell her what we'd done. And she goes, "Oh, big rain will come, and the place will flood." And, that was a story that the old people had told her. And so anyway, I sort of freaked out, and I didn't say anything. I scooted back over to where all us kids were camping on the rock, lying down on the rock, and I told them what Di had said. And as we were lying there looking up at the sky, it was just beautiful blue sky, and then all these clouds just came in from nowhere, just sort of came in a big circle and formed like a cover of clouds, and sort of closed up right above us, and we were like really freaking out. And so we're like, what are we gonna do? Oh, you better tell them, old people now, And so I went back over, and I told my grandmother and Granny Minnie, and said, "Oh, we were throwing rocks and sticks up there, and all them clouds are coming." And she was really upset. She was going off in language, and and I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" And they said, "Well, we might have to pack up and leave, because Alyod, the rainbow serpent, will flood us and kill us here." And went back over and told all the other kids that we were camping there on the rock. And so we all like started praying and saying we're sorry, and said please, we didn't know. And you wouldn't believe it, the clouds all started shifting back out in the same direction, in exactly the opposite direction. They started from the middle on top of us, they all spread back out to open blue sky again.
Oh my goodness, it just shows the power of country, right?
Power of country.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is absolutely beautiful. Ben, it's been such a pleasure to get you onto the World Awaits. We're so happy to have you here, and good luck with the full moon dinners out with the Dirt full moon dinners at Kakadu, and hopefully our paths will cross again soon.
Our tip this week is advice from Southern Cross Travel Insurance about all the travel-related things that cost less than travel insurance. We have all seen the absolutely tragic situations of people who don't get the appropriate cover and end up stranded in a foreign country setting up GoFundMe pages to get home.
Yeah, so Southern Cross Travel Research found 3 in 4 Australians who travelled overseas last year experienced an issue with their travel or travel plans. Okay, that includes me when I lost my phone, had my phone stolen. Yes. The most common issues, however, I know, I made such a song and dance about it. The most common issues were an illness other than COVID-19, airline-related issues such as lost luggage, flight delays or cancellations, and COVID-19 related travel disruptions.
And over recent years, it has paid Australians more than $26,000 in claims related to dog bites, more than $18,000 for property stolen or damaged by monkeys, and more than $16,000 for bites from bugs. Those are some stats.
There's some stats, yeah.
The most expensive claim was for $8,560 when a traveller had their bag containing hearing aids, phone, and money stolen by a monkey at Uluwatu in Bali. That's just...
Can I tell you, I reckon I know that monkey. No, because I went to the monkey forest years ago. No, hang on. It was a different monkey. That's defamation. I went to a monkey forest in near Ubud a few years ago. Anyway, Apparently you could buy bananas on the way out and then come in and you give them to the monkeys. I didn't. So I ran out of bananas and I opened my handbag to try to see if I had anything more in there. And this monkey came down, looked at my bag, did not see anything, ran back up. And while my bag was open, it crapped in my handbag.
No.
And I'm serious. Right in the handbag. I was flying back to Australia in about 3 hours' time. I had to go to the airport. I tried to wash the monkey poo out of my handbag, but it was rank. So I'm laughing, but I'm sorry to that person. That's not really funny. Or maybe in hindsight, they can see the funny thing of it. We'll just move on from that because the research... I know that monkey. The research also shows that 1 in 10 Aussies would cut back on travel insurance as a direct result of the cost of living crisis. And I know times are tough, but there are some things you probably shouldn't scrimp on, and maybe this is one of them, especially, when the cost of a single trip policy for 2 weeks in Bali is, they were saying around $230 for a 30-year-old couple. And often, dependent children can be covered at no extra cost. And that works out about $16 a day, which is less than the price of a coffee and a sandwich in most places. Yes.
Wow, and definitely less than a taxi from Singapore Airport to Marina Bay Sands.
Yep.
Or 2 double burger combo meals at In-N-Out in LA.
And it's also less than adult entry to the Kula Wild Adventure Park in Fiji. It's cheaper than a bucket of bintangs at Kudeta in Bali. Actually, quite a lot cheaper. And cheaper than entry to an adult ticket at the Tower of London, which I paid for recently. I've got to say, it's a whole lot cheaper than that. So what else is it cheaper than?
Even a one-day adult lift pass for Queenstown and Mount Hutt at $139, 2 margaritas at Skylight Bar in Phuket, and adult admission to the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur.
That's really quite a significant list of things that are more expensive than a day's insurance when you are fanging around Bali.
I think we've painted a pretty clear picture. And while accepting that we're not all 30-year-old couples, and the costs do go up when you have medical-related issues, it is really worth shopping around and finding a policy that works for you, because if you're going to travel and you want to reap the rewards of that hard-earned money that got you there, there is nothing worse than having to pay out the same, if not more, because you didn't have travel insurance and things went wrong. And monkeys.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
And here's one that we prepared earlier. Well, actually, Kirsty prepared earlier. Kirsty caught up with Cheryl Takayama, who is a qualified nutritionalist who specialises in online weight loss programs for women. But Cheryl is also a keen traveller as well. She's lived abroad for years, and she shares some really great tips on keeping healthy and well fed so you are in the best condition to fully enjoy your holidays. I have listened to this interview. You must hold in as well for her response to our last question about her most bizarre travel experience. I swear it's going to knock your socks off.
Welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Let's start by telling our listeners a little bit about your career, because I believe you started your career in travel before you moved into nutrition.
Yes, that's right. I grew up in a very small town here in New Zealand, but I was always really keen for travel. I actually lived overseas as an exchange student when I was 16 and worked as an English teacher in Japan. So I really love travel, which is why when I had the opportunity to work for Tourism New Zealand, I really jumped at that opportunity. So I've always loved the travel and tourism industry, but my real passion was nutrition based on my own weight loss journey.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I was really overweight in my late teens. And then when I went and lived in Japan, I actually ended up losing 30 kilograms. So I absolutely loved my time in Japan, and it really changed my life. So when I was working in tourism, I always loved travel, but I had such a personal passion for nutrition and weight loss and learning how to, maintain my weight and all of that type of thing. So that's why I decided to make the career change in my early 30s and make my passion my career and go back to university to study nutrition.
Fantastic. And so in your role as a nutritionist, I know that you have many clients who are also in the travel industry as well. Tell us a bit about what are some of the things that you can do as a traveller to make sure that when you travel that you stay healthy, both, during we can start by on the journey, because plain food, it's a pretty tough one if you're actually really trying to focus on your nutrition.
Yeah, it definitely is. And yeah, I do have a few clients at the moment who are flight attendants. So I do work a lot in all aspects of travel. You can also imagine a lot of my clients, because I specialize in weight loss, a lot of my clients, for them, they're planning to go on an overseas trip, and that's a huge part of the reason why they're working on their nutrition, because they want to get in tip-top shape before their trip. But I think that the real key, and this is what I say to people, is it all starts in your mind by, having that goal of what's important to you and how you want to feel when you're away. And I think this idea of being healthy and thinking through, how you want to feel, it all comes back to that goal of I want to be healthy. I want to really enjoy my holiday. And if you have that as your goal, then I think all of the actions which you can take and need to take and choose to take, they are all a lot easier if you've just sort of taken that step to think it through first and make that decision. So that's what I always say to people. Right, when they've got a holiday coming up, whether it's a short one or a longer one, I always start by saying, what is your goal? How do you want to feel when you're on the plane? How do you want to feel when you arrive at your destination? And how do you want to feel throughout the holiday? And I think taking that moment just to think that through is really probably the most important part, because if you've made that decision, then the actions become so much easier.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and I think a lot of it, it's even with the plane trip, the more that you can pre-organize by taking some good snacks with you, making sure you're organized. I mean, organization is everything in nutrition. You can't leave it to chance. And obviously it's not as easy with long haul travel you can't just, rock up with your chili, your esky with, half your meals.
Or your chili bin.
Yeah, your chili bin, exactly. But certainly, by taking really good snacks with you, and the thing you want to focus on is protein. I don't want to go, too much into the specifics, but what really helps you to keep your blood sugar levels balanced, to keep your energy levels stable, is having protein with you when you travel. That can make a really big difference.
Please do go into specifics, because I think that's what people struggle with. They really don't sort of know or understand what that means. Like protein to some people, what does that mean? That you just have to have lots more chicken on your plate?
Yeah, well, that can help. But I think, so coming back to some basics of nutrition. Okay, so a lot of the times, of course, what's cheap is the higher energy foods like your carbohydrates. I mean, I do specialize in low-carb nutrition, so this is an area that I do talk about a lot. But a lot of the times the food we are offered, whether it's the crackers, that little cookie, especially with the meals, there's going to be a lot of those higher carb foods, which is fine, but you want to make sure, because of this, if you can take some protein with you and have that as well, or instead of, that's going to help you a lot to keep your blood sugar levels a bit more stable. So the kind of things I recommend to people, and a really easy one, would be a good quality protein bar. It's already wrapped, it's yummy, you can have it with a hot drink. A lot of the bars have 20 grams of protein, which is almost as much as a meal. So another option, which some of my clients who really enjoy meat, they'll even take beef jerky with them, because that's another great source of protein. So it's just, if you can add in with the food you're getting, or have it instead, those are just some really simple things that can help you to avoid energy crashes, because that's what can happen if you go hard with the meal and then eat the dessert and the cracker. Then a few hours later, you're feeling not the best.
And that's the key thing really as well, isn't it? As much as it's about, if you're trying to the importance of you're trying to maintain your health maintain your weight for good health, it's also about the way it makes you feel.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And you also want to think about stress. Like traveling in and of itself is, especially the plane trip, is pretty stressful to your human body. There's nothing natural about a human sitting up at 30,000 feet in a tin plane. That's really stressful on many levels for your body. So I always say to people, we want to do the best we can to minimize stress in the way that we can, so that our body will be better able to deal with the stress that we can't control, from being in that situation. So that means, yes, keeping your blood sugar levels stable by having some protein snacks. That's a really good one. Of course, the bigger one as well, I would say, is probably drinking water. That's a big one. You want to, I've heard you talk about this on your podcast, staying hydrated is really important. And I'll tell you another one as well that's really good to minimize stress, which is making sure, especially on a long haul trip, that you're leaving, if possible, at least 3.5 to 4 hours between eating. That's another key thing when you look at gut health, because you want to make sure that your body is having time to actually digest the food that you're eating. And of course, you're sitting still, you're not moving around. So that's something different as well for your body. So try and avoid, the constant snacking and eating little bits just because you're bored. If you can give your body a good amount of time between meals and snacks, that's another really good thing just to help minimize stress. And of course, the other one is avoiding alcohol.
Don't get that sneaky champagne.
I'm sorry to say, but look, all of these little things that you can do will make a huge difference to how you feel when you arrive. And especially on a short trip, you want to arrive feeling like you can hit the ground running to the best of your ability by not having put your body under too much extra stress while you're traveling.
And what about, that's such great advice, and what about when you're actually, so say you're on the ground somewhere and you're somewhere that's culturally quite different, so there's lots of spicy and sort of dishes with lots of cream in them, or just even really high carb dishes. And I know that you were in Brazil fairly sort of recently, or not that long ago, and so what can you do when you're away somewhere where the cuisine is so different and you really are in those environments where you don't have a lot of options?
Yeah, look, I think, again, the biggest thing, if you can, is whatever way of eating you're trying to do before you leave. So in my case, that is low carbohydrate most of the time. Now, you might be someone who, even if you do eat carbs, perhaps, you don't do well with high fat, because of digestion. Whatever it is, I think the best way to approach it is to just do your best to adhere to that, I guess, in the best way that you can, as often as you can, while you're away. If you have very specific needs, you may have to, take some food with you if possible that you can try and supplement. I mean, a good example, a lot of my clients might take, if they're going to the islands where options are really minimal when it comes to protein, I'll get them to take protein powder with them so they can at least do a little shake, which can help them avoid meals that just really don't suit them, and especially if it's going to give them an upset gut. Having something like that just gives them an option in a place where they might not have an option. I think also when it comes to perhaps some more of the, like something indulgent, like maybe you're somewhere and they do this amazing dessert, or they have, like, Brazil's the perfect example because they have all of this blimmin' dulce de leche, beautiful caramelized, dessert, sweet things. And I happen to be quite a sweet tooth myself. So even if there's that situation where physically you have a choice, but emotionally you really want to eat all of that, that type of thing, because it is special and it's a bit of a treat. I always say, look, if I'm somewhere for maybe a week, like a particular resort or something like that, and there's something that I really want, I'll say to myself, look, have it at the end, like save it to the last day, and I'll do it then, because I know that I've sort of got, something to look forward to, but the damage will be minimal because I'll have that really indulgent thing. And then I'm going to leave, So it's kind of little tricks like that can help you get through and still stay, I guess, true to the best way of eating that makes you feel good, so that you don't spend time, feeling overfull or really bloated. Because, of course, if you're feeling like that because you have overeaten, or you've just, been a bit lax, I suppose, and eaten foods that don't serve you, well, then you unfortunately might have the problem of then feeling sick or bloated and overfull, and that will impinge on the your joy of that holiday, because there's nothing worse than feeling stuffed.
Absolutely. Gosh, it's such great advice, and I'm sure we could talk for hours about this. And I do also like the way that you've told me before that don't feel afraid about ordering at a noodle bar a dish without the noodles.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I think these days, so many cultures, if they can, they're going to be accommodating because people do have different needs. And yes, I think it's just about not being afraid to ask. You can only ask, and hopefully you will be able to get something that's a little bit more in line with what's going to work. I also think, it's important to also distinguish there's the choices that maybe aren't the best for us because physically, but if we do have a real intolerance and it's gonna give us a stomach ache, it's so important to stick up, to speak up about that, because again, you don't want to go feeling sick, because that is really going to impact on the quality of your holiday. So you have to be brave and just speak up where you can, and try and make the best choice possible, or have that available if it is an option.
And like you say, most of it comes down to mindset. So that's just such great advice. Thank you so much for that, Cheryl. So we're going to end our interview now on the question we ask all of our interviewees, which is what's the most bizarre thing that's happened to you during your travels?
Well, I had to laugh when I saw that. I think actually the most bizarre thing, which when I think back is actually quite horrifying, was being shot at on the streets of Copan in Honduras when I was 16 years old.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, I grew up in a small town. I had never even been on a plane before, but I decided I was going to be an exchange student and I was going to go somewhere extreme, like somewhere where I didn't know anything about, where they didn't speak English, and I decided on Honduras. So I ended up going to live there for a year. And it was an amazing experience. It really was. But there was a group of us exchange students, and we were on a trip. Now, we were only 16, may I add. And as we know, the Aussies and Kiwis, we're quite prone to partying and perhaps being a little bit, I don't know, naughty. And so there was a group of us Aussies and Kiwis, and we snuck out at night time because this was a proper trip. And we went drinking. So we went on this AFS trip, and then we snuck out and went to the bar. And anyway, as Aussies and Kiwis are also prone to do, we drank the whole bar out of tequila. And needless to say, we were quite inebriated at this point, and there were some locals there who were not happy that we had drunk it all, and they literally chased us out, and we had to run, and then they started shooting at us. And the crazy thing is, we weren't even that worried. Like, we thought it was quite funny. Like, I guess the joy of being 16 and under the influence of rather a lot of tequila, because we thought it was funny. I mean, go figure. And we just thought it was a great joke and sort of ran back to our hotel. Luckily, they didn't, pursue us too far, and just had a bit of a laugh about it. And I look back now and I think, oh my goodness, like seriously, how out of control.
Oh, that's
but gosh,
so great.
I have to say, like, compared to this life now, as we get older, we got the responsibilities, the mortgage, the kids. I look back and I think I'm kind of glad for those experiences, because they certainly are a far cry from how life is now.
Oh, it's been so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh my God, that is the most incredible, bizarre moment in Honduras. There were some really great home truths about plain food in Kirsty's interview with nutritionist Cheryl Takayama, and you can see more at her website at whywaitacademy.com.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Writes on Instagram. That's Kirstie Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.